OwnBet.com, #1 MMA sportsbook in the world. They offer the best UFC odds, live betting, and covers all big MMA promotions with huge prop markets and odds. OwnBet also runs an exclusive MMA pick'em for UFC events. Parlay each event and win up to $2,500 in cash. Entry fee is only $1 for each bet slip. Use promo code Fight Society and get the best MMA bonus out there, 200% bonus. Sign up today at OwnBet.com. That's OwnBet, OHMBET.com. Welcome to another edition of the Fight Society podcast. I am your host, Damon Martin, and this is a very short edition of the podcast this week because my co-host, Jeremy Loper, went into surgery today to have shoulder surgery after he was down in Virginia for Matt Brown's fight at UFC Fight Night in Norfolk. So I want to give our best wishes, of course, to Loper. He'll be back next week as we kind of reform the podcast. We were off these last couple of weeks. I had Dwayne Finley in last week, and then Jeremy will be back next week as he recovers from his shoulder surgery. But this week, I had an interview I did this week, and I wanted to get it out for the podcast, talking to welterweight champion Tyron Woodley about a myriad of subjects, not the least of which is his tease that he may be coming back before the end of the year. Now, there were rumors out there that, well, I won't say rumors, there was a statement out there he had a shoulder injury, he may be headed for surgery, so there's a lot of speculation about when he would be able to come back in 2018. Well, as it turns out, Tyron Woodley might be back sooner rather than later. So I had a chance to catch up with Tyron this week. I want to put it on the podcast so everyone can hear the interview. We talk about that. Of course, we also talk about his commentary work. We talk about the Georges St-Pierre situation and some of the other up-and-coming contenders in the welterweight division like Darren Till and Colby Covington. So it's a wide-ranging interview. Lots of different subjects we covered. So I wanted to kind of give the spotlight to the welterweight champ this week. Since Loper's gone, I still want to put out a podcast for you guys. And this will be the one you'll hear this week with Tyron Woodley. We'll be back next week with our regularly scheduled podcast, of course. All the subjects we're talking about, everything that unfolded in Australia this weekend, as well as some of the stuff that happened with Matt Brown and, of course, Dustin Poirier's fights this past weekend, and then rolling into the China card, of course, where the one and only Michael Bisping will step up on 2 weeks' notice to face Colby Gastelum. So, with that said, let's talk to the welterweight champ of the world, Tyron Woodley. He's always got a lot to say. I haven't talked to him in a little while, so I want to put this out there. So let's talk to the champ, Tyron Woodley.
How you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I appreciate you taking time to chat with me today.
No worries, my man.
So how's everything, man? Obviously, good work over the weekend, man. Always enjoy you working on the analyst desk, of course.
Oh man, I appreciate it. Yeah, we had a blast, man. It's just fun talking fights with other mixed martial artists, especially people that you know and respect. And it's just crazy. I've been on the desk for a year, and I'm already seen as one of the senior analysts. And a lot of the new guys that are coming in, they're asking me give them some advice on what they should do. So it's just really rewarding for me to see that I'm falling into something that really suits me, and I'm kind of a natural at it. So I was just blessed and thankful to have something beyond just fighting.
Yeah. Well, I know, and I know I talked to James Krause, who worked with you over the weekend. I mean, you set an example for guys like that of, things you can do outside the cage. And obviously, you're very honest. You're, you're opinionated, but you also tell a lot of facts. I know I texted you last night about this. You said the thing about Matt Brown when you talked about retirement. And I thought that was such a great thing to say, because what you're talking about is absolutely true. That mindset of never, always being a fighter in your head and never being able to get out of that headspace. I thought that was a brilliant statement on the post-fight show.
Yeah, Matt Brown's a G, man. We've had our back and forth Twitter wars, and I saw him at an event that we had to do together, and it was just awkward silence, and we had been around each other so many times with no words exchanged. And then I just said, man, let's just squash this. But we didn't have to get into no long, deep apology back and forth. And he said, okay, cool, shook hands, and that was it. It was just a mutual respect. The thing that I like about Matt Brown is his ability to go out there and consistently put on those types of fights. And it's not the greatest thing for your head with concussions, blood, getting cut. He fights an abusive style, and if he wants to walk away from the sport, what a picture book way to do it, man. He went out there. Diego Sanchez pretty much has the same MO as he. These guys both go out there. It's been terribly hard to finish these guys, and for him to be able to finish Diego Sanchez, it was crazy, So, yeah, man, I got a lot of respect for him. He didn't recognize that until we made up, but it just some guys are built a certain way, and some guys talk crap and some guys say things like Twitter. Like I remember Connor had called me a bitch or something on Twitter, and it might have been, like, just to get people pumped up. But people like me and people like Matt Brown, if I say something, I actually really mean it. And I actually really might walk up on you in real life, and I think he's the same kind of guy, and that's why he got my respect.
Yeah. Well, I liked what you said also because, I think you could probably count on one hand the amount of guys in the sport who have walked away off a big win or have walked away, kind of holding their head high. I mean, unfortunately, mixed martial arts, and we both love it, but let's be honest, it's tough to walk away, and almost not be told to walk away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the thing about me is I'm trying to put myself in a position where it won't be tough to walk away, where, I can say, you know what, I got a lot from this sport. Hopefully you guys have fun while I was here. I had fun while I was here. You made money off me. I made money off you. Now it's time to go to the next chapter. So I'm starting to write the book of my next chapter now, so that when I get to that point, it won't be hard to walk away. Now, granted, I don't know Matt Brown personally. I don't know what his day-to-day is. But it seems to me his identity is mixed martial arts. It's who he is what he does. I don't know exactly if he has some exit strategies in place. I don't know what his financial situation is or if he has some different skills. I seen him doing a welding, building equipment, so I don't know if that's something he's going to veer off into. But that's something that he has to choose to do. I just would hate to see the sport of mixed martial arts force any athlete, not just him, to keep doing it because of money, keep doing it because they can't identify with something different outside of MMA. And that's when you start seeing legends start to tarnish their legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyron, before I get to anything else, there's a lot I want to talk to you about, but right before the end of the broadcast on Saturday night, I was watching, and, you're doing your little goodbyes, and everyone's kind of saying out there, and I think Todd Grisham turned to you, and he said, so, when are we going to see you again, Tyron? And you said, well, you may see me back before the end of the year. Now, I know you can't make any announcements right now, but that caught my ear, that caught my attention. What's going on?
Well, it's funny. I'm glad you were listening because nobody else hit me up, and then, it snuck past their ears. So they try to give me a stage to kind of leak out some information, which I can't say a ton about. But, don't be surprised if you see me in the next couple of days announce a fight. So it's a sport about risk and reward. It's a sport about becoming a legend. We look at guys that have stepped up on last minute and to change their lives. I don't think that I should be any different. There's a lot of guys in my weight class that are talking. They're chirping. Everybody wants to fight. Everybody want to fight me. Everybody think they can beat me. People are talking because they think I can't fight. They think I'm injured to the point where I can't compete. And I'm not giving them any, I'm not going back and forth with them. So that gives them more wings to keep flying. But at the end of the day, none of the people in our division right now are the fights that are going to get me to the legendary status, get me to the point where I'm a household name. I'm looking for that fight. And I might have found that fight.
Oh, nice. Now, am I allowed to ask, is it at welterweight? Is there a chance you might be jumping up a different weight class?
Just say that I might be fighting this year.
Okay. Now, I know my first reaction was because I know after the Maya fight you were dealing with a little bit of a shoulder injury and there was, talk about surgery and things like that. Assuming that you're talking about coming back this year, it sounds like the shoulder is good.
Yeah, the shoulder is good. It's not... in the 6-week period of training camp, a big portion of my training camp is going to be rehabilitation. I don't have to, act like, oh, my shoulder's 100%. It's not just, it's not. But guess what? I've had a labrum tear on my left side. I've had the surgery, and my left shoulder has never been 100%. And that's part of the reason why I'm so heavy-handed on the right, because I always felt like my left was, not as strong. So now I'm in rehab. I've been rehabbing my left. I've been rehabbing my right together, so that when I come back, I'll be a stronger puncher on the left and right. So I'm going to be a bit more of a problem than just overhand right for a lot of my opponents.
Yeah. I know that, in your career, you've been very smart, not only, not necessarily, not that you've ever picked your opponents, you haven't done that, but you've been good about your spots, when the cards you've been on, you fought on the right cards to get the most attention. Let's be honest, get the most money, which is smart. I think more fighters should do that. But, obviously you've also stepped up when the UFC has needed you to step up. When this opportunity, whatever it is, even was presented to you, which was it for you? Was it a matter of, helping the UFC out, or was it a matter of, hey, this is the right opportunity for me that, I can kind of build my legacy off another fight this year?
It was all of the above. It was the UFC. Obviously you had, the Aldo insertion back into the Max Holloway, which we just saw that fight. So, who knows how that fight's going to do. You saw the Dominic Cruz injury. That was a number one contendership fight. We got the current champion, Dillashaw, who's talking about going down, which can hold up the 35-pound belt. We don't know what Georges St-Pierre is going to do. We don't know what's going to happen with Daniel Cormier because, John Jones is still waiting to see if he's going to, be let go. I don't know the right terminology, but not suspended for whatever the testing thing. So we got so many divisions. I don't even know who Stipe's fighting. I think that they're doing 2 or 3 fights at heavyweight. He's fighting next, and a lot of them are rematches. So think about all that. And think about Demetrius Johnson cleaning out the division. And think about Ferguson having the interim belt. We not knowing what the hell Connor's going to do. So they need their champions to fight. And when they called up on me and they asked me to fight, I've been that guy that's been fighting. Everybody doesn't know it, but I took the Dong Young Kim fight with very short notice. I took the Damian Maia fight on 4 weeks' notice, and I've been that guy. And now it's time for that guy to fight a name that actually draws some eyeballs, that's going to put me into the position where now I'm one of those names. I'm not one of those names yet, and it's kind of embarrassing. I've beaten Robbie Lawler, Carlo Condit, Damian Maia, all these guys that have the name. How can I beat those guys and I don't, get the name or be put in a position where people are like, hey, this guy's amongst the greats. So I want to fight those type of fighters. Obviously, every time you fight, you should want to maximize. Sometimes you fight a fight. Stephen Thompson fight the second time around. I knew I wasn't going to get pay-per-view hits like I did in UFC 205. But everybody was talking crap, and everybody wanted to see me fight him, and he thought he wanted some, and the UFC pushed the fight, so I did the fight. It wasn't the most, you don't think I would have did better with a Nate, GSP, Bisping, some fight? I would have did way better economically, but I took the fight because I'm the only champion that's still fighting number 1 contenders out here. People forget that. Damian Maia, I knew that wasn't going to be a fight that was going to be something that everybody just went crazy about. It was going to be him trying to take me down over and over and over and over and over and over again, and me trying to find a way to strike in between that. So I think it's time. When I first won a belt, people are like, oh, you don't deserve a money fight yet. I don't know how you earn. I don't know how you deserve. I don't know how you do that. But I want everything, man. I want a fight on the big stage. I want a good card. I want a good opponent with a name that's going to project me, a stronger name than I have. Nobody in my weight class presents that. Robbie Lawler is the only guy who presents a bigger name than I do in the welterweight division. I take that back. Carlos Condit and Robbie Lawler. Those 2 guys, I would say, have a larger name than I do in the sport from what they've done. But I've beaten both of those guys. So now what do I have to do? And, that's the goal. And all those things add up. Obviously, I'm going to get paid well. That's just the business out of it.
Yeah. Well, you got me excited now because it sounds like this is a pretty big fight. This isn't just another contender getting thrown at you. It sounds like from the sound in your voice, this is actually a pretty big fight that's being proposed.
Yeah, I mean, there are no contenders right now in the welterweight division. They still have to shuffle the deck and emerge. We got to see what happens with RDA and Rob. We have to see what happens, with who was the other fight that's coming up? It's another welterweight fight. I'm drawing a blank. We saw what happened with, Cowboy Cerrone and Till. We saw what happened with Damian Maia and Colby Covington. Now those young, spunky guys, the Carl Usman is fighting somebody, the Ponzinibbio, Mike Perry. After those guys win, they got to reshuffle the deck. Now they're in position for contention. Now they're in position to be talking about a title shot. But until then, they got to get their weight up.
Yeah. I said this to you, I think this is going back before the fight with Wonder Boy, the second fight with Wonder Boy, and then I saw your interview on TMZ with my buddy Evan over there, where you had a chance to talk to GSP after his fight with Bisping, and I said this to you, whatever it was now, 6-7 months ago, and I say it to you again now. Am I wrong in reading that it just doesn't seem like GSP wants anything to do with a fight with you?
GSP keeps saying, I'm not scared of you. That would imply that I said that you're scared of me. And if I would have said that, it would have been appropriate for him to say, no, I'm not scared of you. But when he just says it and I don't even mention the fact that I think you're scared to fight me, that tells me that he is scared to fight me. Not scared to fight me because he's never fought someone like me, even though he hasn't. I think it's because he's not back in the UFC to reign over a division. He's not back in the UFC to come back and reclaim what once was his. He's not back to that. He's not back to run. Like, you really think that if Bisping wasn't the champion, he would have went up there? You think he would have fought Chris Weidman? Think he would have fought Lou Rocco? Hell no. He wouldn't have. He's in that position because Bisping, style-wise, was a more favorable matchup. Even Robert Whittaker is not a terribly bad matchup. It's a little bit tougher than than Bisping, but it's not a terrible matchup for him. So maybe he does defend. But if you think he's going to stick around to fight Luke Rockhold, Yoel Romero, Jacare Souza, Chris Weidman, and the rest of the killers at that division, Derek Brunson, he's not going to be hanging around fighting true middleweights. You know what I mean? So that's when I think he wants to fight Conor. I think he wants to fight, guys, maybe a rematch with Nick Diaz. I think he's back to participate in large pay-per-views. Because, let's be honest, does he deserve it? Yeah. He was in the sport. He's the only guy that built the pay-per-view model off being a good guy, a martial artist, and a good fighter, not off suits, not off trash talk. He built the model off that. Getting the country, he's the first guy to get a whole country behind him. Canada's, still going crazy about Georges St-Pierre. So in many ways, he kind of built the rubric. And some of these guys have obviously, Conor's taken that rubric and taken it to the house and really made a whole different planet, of a protocol to get pay-per-view. So, yeah, man, I think he deserves to get back and, fight for those big fights and fight those super fights and make a lot of money. I'm with it. I just gotta let the burn happen and realize that the greatest welterweight of all time, I would never get an opportunity to fight. And, I'll have to become the greatest by beating other guys and not beating him.
Yeah. So in your head right now, I mean, anything can happen, and I understand that's how the sport works, but in your head right now, you just don't feel like you're probably going to get a chance to fight him.
I don't think I'll ever fight George. No. I mean, at this point, I think we should just probably, just say, hey, we'll never fight, and maybe form a training situation where, we're training. I'm probably never going to fight Rory McDonald again. I'm probably never going to fight him. So I wouldn't mind training with him and, learning some techniques and things.
Yeah, I said this before, and I really do mean this. I think stylistically, you're out of everyone in the UFC right now, and I understand, I'm not saying this to disrespect Luke Rockhold or even Robert Whittaker, but I think stylistically, you are the worst possible matchup for Georges St-Pierre. And I'm not saying as you said, I'm not saying he's scared of you necessarily, but when you look on paper, hey, I can make this amount of money for fighting this guy versus making this amount of money and fighting a guy who legitimately, will beat me or has a better chance of beating me. I understand.
Yeah. I will be George. I will be George. You know what? Because I looked at what George did, and I basically, I'm not a silly guy, man. I see what guys are doing well, and I feel it. I saw what he was doing. But I mean, I gotta find this video. I got a video when I was an amateur fighter, no pro fight, and I was at Robbie Lawler's gym, the Hit Squad. He owned a gym with Matt Hughes. I was in his gym, sitting there working out, and I did an interview, and I was talking about didn't have no type of facial hair. I love Georges St-Pierre because he trains with the best wrestlers, the best boxing coach, the best jiu-jitsu guys, and he goes to Greg Jackson, the best guy to strategize and put it all together. You don't cut any corners. I was talking about Nate Marquardt, guys I never thought I would ever fight, how he was so well-rounded. But this was 12 years ago. So I watched what he did, and I took that mindset, but then the intangibles that he can't prepare for, the speed, the power, the mindset, the fact that I basically absorbed all the powers of all my opponents. Everything that they've done, I've studied and watched them so much now it becomes a part of my game plan. And I can stop them from doing it. Look how Jorge Masvidal looked against Stephen Thompson. Jorge Masvidal has the fastest hands in the entire welterweight division. None of us punch faster than him. He couldn't even get a lick off Stephen Thompson. Okay? Look at all the other guys before me that fought Damian Maia. They got taken down. He took down 12 of his last 12 opponents when he was able to get to the canvas. They have seven wins in a row. Stephen Thompson, 7 wins in a row. Robbie Lawler, 2 title defenses. Crazy fight with Johnny Hendricks. Fighter of the year 2 times in a row. Carlos Condit. Well, I don't even have to tell you his resume. But nobody gives me the credit for what I'm doing in the Octagon. Even Colby Covington, who I hate to even say his name, you don't think he watched me fight Damian Maia and took my book and used that to win? Yes, he did. And a true martial artist should.
Yeah. Well, I actually said this on that Saturday night of UFC 217. I said, seeing Wonderboy, and I have so much respect for Jorge Masvidal, what a phenomenal fighter he is, but seeing what Wonderboy was able to do to him, and then going back and rewatching your 2 fights with Wonderboy, I think that raises the bar on those victories for you, because when you see what Wonderboy did to guys like, Rory McDonald, then we have to see him go out there and do it again against Jorge Masvidal. I think it makes your win over him that much more impressive, because we see what he's able to do, and you completely took him out of his game.
Yeah, and, and I watched that, and I was watching it with the Fox people, and everybody kept looking at me, and they almost was just clapping, like, man, you know what? People don't give you the credit. It's not even that I did it once. I had to do it twice, 2 times. With a guy that did not want to be put away. I don't know. I don't understand how he can take that type of punches. Him and Carlos Condit are the only 2 guys that I hit like that. They didn't go to sleep. You know what I mean? So with that said, what I really wanted for this year to happen, I wanted Robbie Lawler to be RDA. I wanted Damian Maia to beat Colby Covington, and I wanted Wonder Boy to be Jorge Masvidal. So now everybody can look like, damn, now what do we do? This dude, everybody else is basically knocking out the competition. He already beat them. Maybe we should start giving him a little bit of respect on his name. Maybe.
Well, I said it. You said it on Saturday night, and I back you up on this. We were talking about, Kenny Florian. I'm sorry, Kenny, you're wrong. Lightweight division is not the better division. Welterweight, in my opinion.
Nowhere near.
Well, welterweight, the thing about welterweight that's so dangerous, and we saw it with Darren Till and Cowboy Cerrone, is you can be the number 18th ranked guy, and you're still a dangerous matchup for the number 4 ranked guy. And that's what's that's what's so crazy about this division. I mean, like, I know, Colby Covington's not your favorite person in the world, but I mean, beating Dong Hyun Kim and beating Damian Maia, I mean, that's a guy who was unranked, 6-7 months ago. So that's how deep welterweight is. That's how tough welterweight is.
And then it's also strategy too. I mean, I don't want to bang on Colby because he bangs on himself by opening his mouth every day. But the thing is, Colby Covington is taking the right fight. He's taking a Mike Powell on his way out. He's taking a Dong Hyun Kim that I had already tenderized for him. He's taking a Damian Maia that I had already based and marinated for him. He's not fighting the Robbie Lawler off of being the fighter of the year. He's not fighting. He even all the way dated back. So when I fought Paul Daly, after he came off one of the best first rounds we ever seen in combat sports, when he fought for the title against Nick Diaz, when I was fighting Tarek Zaffin, and we both was a prospect, very similar to when Cody Garbrandt fought Thomas Almeida. We shouldn't have fought at that time. It was too soon in our career for us to fighting. So it's not the same. It's not the same win. I think it's an asterisk by the win, just because Damian Maia know as long as I'm a champion, nobody's going to watch that fight again. What's his motivation to come back and fight? Is he going to make another run? He made a run at middleweight, came up short against Anderson, made a run at welterweight, came up short against me. I'm still at the throne. Is he really going to get another title shot? You know what I mean? So with that said, I'm more like a historian on this damn weight class. So when somebody try to say another weight class is tougher, I get offended because I look at 3 layers of the fighters, the experienced fighters. That's the Jorge Masvidal, the Cowboy Cerrone, the Robbie Lawler, the Damian Maia, and I guess you would say myself. Then you got the up-and-coming fighter, the Darren Till, the Carl Usman, the Colby Covington, all those guys, and the Mike Perry, the Ponzinibbio. You got those guys. Those guys are the most dangerous. That's who I used to be. When I was hungry, I was screaming for Jake Shields. I was screaming for Nick Diaz. I was screaming for Georges St-Pierre. I was screaming for anybody who had ever fought for a title before, because I knew that would get me in position to be up next. So I remember how hungry I was, how much I wanted it, and I would have bit somebody's damn head off for a chance to just prove it. That's where those guys are at. That's why I never take those guys lightly. It was a Kelvin Gastelum at one point. One of the experienced guys was the Johnny Hendricks. Anytime you got a guy like that, a guy like Kelvin Gastelum, who's probably going to be Whiteman, to put himself in title contention, when you got him in a different weight, and you got a former champion like Johnny Hendricks in a different weight, it tells you that our weight class is vicious. You know what I mean? It is a vicious weight class. You got a former interim champion in Carlos Condit, which also contended for the real belt against George. We got Robbie Lawler, who had a better one time. Steven and Maia both have contended for belts. Like, it's not even close. And where's your champion at? When is he fighting again? Who is he fighting? Yeah. Is he ever going to fight in the UFC again? So, like, they put that in the script purposely to agitate me, so then it makes for good TV. But we all know the welterweight division is undeniably the best the best division and the deepest division in the entire UFC.
Yeah, I agree. Top to bottom, it's a snake pit. And I said this, I remember when Matt Brown got into the top 10, a couple of years ago, and I told him, I said, that's an accomplishment in and of itself, because even getting into the top 10 in the welterweight division is not easy. Like, not even talking about being a contender for the title. Just getting to the top 10 is tough in the welterweight division.
Just getting to the table. Just getting to the table. You don't even have to eat. Just getting to the table is hard. Like, I can look at 11 through 15, and, man, you got Gunnar Nelson that's outside of the top 10 now. You got Tarek Safedine that's outside of the top 10 now. He was a Strikeforce champ. You got, Nate Marquardt, who's in a different weight class. You got Hector Lombard's in a different weight class. You got Kevin Gastelum in a different weight class. You got Johnny Hendricks in a different weight class. Some of these guys can't even cope with the weight cut alone. Not even just a challenge of the new challenges, the new prospect, the younger, stronger, hungrier. Like, why nobody talking about fighting Carl Usman? Everybody, like, why is everybody running from him? Think about that.
Yeah.
He the new Hector Lombard. Nobody wants to fight him. You know what I mean? Because he's strong, he wrestles well, he's hard to take down, he's starting to use his striking now, he has good conditioning, he's smart. Like, why Colby Covington ain't talking about fighting him? Why Darren Till ain't talking about fighting him? You know what I mean? Like, I was the guy that was fighting. I asked to fight Carlos Condit. I asked to fight Johnny Hendricks. I asked to fight Robbie Lawler. I didn't shy away from the guys. I didn't fight who people wanted me to fight at the time, who they thought I should fight, but I was asking for the killers to put me in a position where I'm at now. And guess what? I might have known what I'm doing because last time I checked, it's a gold belt sitting on the shelf at my house, collecting dust somewhere.
Real quick before I get you out of time, I don't want to tie you up too much, but I did want to ask you, you mentioned their names a couple of times. I mean, are you impressed by the guys who are kind of, climbing their way, kind of scratching and clawing their way closer to contendership? And the two guys in particular I'm talking about are Darren Till and Colby Covington. Colby off 2 top 10 wins. Darren Till, obviously, with a very impressive knockout over Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Are you impressed with a couple of those guys that are kind of, getting closer to title contention?
I'm definitely impressed with Darren Till. I love his striking. He's so vicious. He has that hunger, man, that we're talking about. I'm a big fan of Mike Perry just because he's a real guy. He came up to me, straight up to my face, and said, "I'm coming for your belt." I said, "Well, let's do it." And then he stayed there and did my seminar as a regular student. I respect him. I respect Carl Usman, just the way he carries himself. He lets his words speak for himself. He goes out there and he gets a win. He's an old school. He's a young kid, but he got the old school mentality that he's not scared to earn his way to the top. Colby Covington is obviously taking a page out of Connor's book and Chael's book. He's not as good with it. He probably should quit because it's kind of embarrassing. I think if he gets a mentor, maybe grab one of the WWE guys and have them help him do the stuff, maybe script it out, it may come off a little bit better. Then maybe I might be a little bit impressed, but I'm not really impressed with him. He's beating guys that are on their way out. And he basically got outstruck by Damian Maia. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I don't like where our sport is going. Thankful for me, I only have one of those guys in my division, but I don't like the pure entertainment aspect. Now, when you need somebody to step up and you need a good fight that makes sense, you need a good fight that really has implications in a true contender, we're fishing. We're fishing and we're scrambling now because we allow the entertainment aspect of our sport to supersede a meaningful fight, a fight that makes sense for the division. So now when these guys are fighting, one guy fights in November, one guy fights in January, they're on different scales now. One person's recovering, one person's still in shape, and it just messes up the entire equilibrium of our sport. And that's the part about our sport I can't stand. You know what I mean? Certain guys shouldn't be getting certain fights. But if you can talk your way into it, then, you can get it.
Yeah. Well, you fought nothing but contenders, the number one guys, from Robbie Lawler to Carlos Condit. I mean, when you look at your resume, it's pretty damn impressive. And I tell you what, this tease about you coming back, I'm guessing UFC 219. I have no inside knowledge on that. I'm just guessing they need to make
it. What day is that?
That's December 30th.
They need a main event?
They need a main event. They really need a main event for that card, and I can't think of a better name than Tyron Woodley.
Vegas?
That's Vegas.
What is Vegas?
That's Vegas.
Okay.
That's your second. That's your home away from home.
Hey, I'm undefeated in Vegas.
Well, whoever it is, I hope we get to hear some news in the next couple of days. My ears perked up immediately when I heard you tease that. So, Tyron, I appreciate it, man. I always appreciate you giving me the time, obviously. Hopefully in the next couple of days we'll hear about this potential fight, but I appreciate the time today, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon. And if I don't talk to you
just know that I say yes.
I love it. Tyron, I appreciate the time, buddy, and we'll talk soon.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Yeah, bud.
A big thank you, of course, to the champ, Tyron Woodley, for stopping by the podcast. Sounds very intriguing. We may hear something within the next couple of days. Don't forget, we got UFC tonight coming up. Obviously, he's always around that show, always around the Fox studios. Maybe there's a chance we're going to hear about a fight announcement. UFC 219 desperately needs a main event. We've heard all the situation going on with Holly Holm and Chris Cyborg. We know Conor McGregor's not coming back on that card. Stipe Miocic is not coming back on that card. So the options are dwindling. And they may be picking up the bat phone and calling Tyron Woodley to step in. And from the sound of things, it's not what you may expect. It's not one of the named contenders in the welterweight division that you necessarily know about. So, with that said, want to say a big thank you, of course, to Tyron Woodley for stopping by the podcast. And we will see you guys next week with more Fight Society podcasts. Make sure you check us out and rate us on iTunes. Just search Fight Society on there. Check us out on Libsyn. Check out the YouTube page. And if you do hashtag us on Twitter, make sure you hashtag Fight Society. And I'm at Damon and Martin, of course, if you want to hit me up with any questions or comments you got about the podcast. We will see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in for this special edition with the champ, Tyron Woodley, and we'll see you then.